Yeah, come on, welcome. Welcome in to the FSA Fan Media of the Year winning podcast brackets 2024. It's not the top 20 podcast, it's the Monday pod. It's sponsored by Sky Bet and the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund. George, why am I hamming that up so much?
Because tonight it is the FSA Awards, and therefore I guess in a way we can only say that now.
It's the last time I'm going to be able to say it.
Otherwise, we have to qualify it with a year, and that sounds way less cool. I mean, we are nominated, so...
Yeah. Oh, boy, we're going to be there.
We could win. No, we could win.
Yeah, wow.
We probably won't win.
Explain why.
Well, a couple of reasons. How honest do you want me to be? Last year it was a panel vote, which was nice, and the panel chose us, which is kind. This year it's been changed to
panels, and they like us.
Yes, this year it's been changed to a mass vote, and we've got Arse Blog, and the Anfield Rap in our category. So
the Square Ball.
The Square Ball, our friends, all friends of ours.
HLTCO.
Yeah, another friend of ours.
Alternative Wales. Never heard of them. Looking forward to getting to know them.
Maybe even a rival, given our Dragon Sports time.
Goodness.
And
the England pod.
And then also we got a lovely
scrap.
We got a lovely email from the FSA last week asking us to present an award.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, no one's ever presented an Oscar and then come back on stage again to win an Oscar.
Yeah.
So I think that means that our fate is sealed. We're fine with that because it means that we're going to get up on stage still. Last year, I was kind of quite nervous standing in between John Murray and Victoria Derbyshire because we just won an award. This time, at least I know what's coming. Yeah. So I'm enjoying it, looking forward to it.
Victoria Derbyshire famously chose that moment to ask me in front of a room of the great and good of football media what team I support, which, I mean, it's a stupid question because it's so obvious. Everyone knows that.
Also, we are presenting Social Media of the Year. And given my kind of 2-decade-long addiction to Twitter, I feel like I'm pretty well set to present that, so it's good.
We're really looking forward to it. We're really, really, really chuffed just to be in the conversation, to be nominated. For us, the FSA Awards completely outrank any other potential award in this space. We love the Football Supporters Association and the work that they do. So for us to be there tonight is a big thing for us, and therefore we extend the thanks to you guys as well, because as you well know, if you guys didn't listen, if you guys didn't, I guess, enjoy what we're putting out and think that it has value in this space, then, we wouldn't exist and we'd probably be accountants or something.
Wow.
I think George would be an estate agent, actually, thinking about it.
Oh, no.
Sales. Big old sales
Not
guy.
that I have anything against estate agents, just to say, but I want to be the other side of it, just buying houses.
Incredible weekend across all three leagues. That leads me to a simple question, George. Is this the best season ever in the EFL? In the pod era, is this looking like the best season ever? It's a difficult question. There are three leagues. They're all separate. They're not the same. But I honestly think the average drama level and unpredictability, if you like, of all three leagues right now is the highest it's ever been.
I think it feels like, and recency bias will play a huge part in all these conversations. Yep. It feels like the best start to a season ever. What I would say is that seasons are defined by what happens basically in April and May.
Yeah.
And, there's every chance that it might fizzle out a bit. Like, what if, we've got Coventry, who are probably the earliest champions elect of an EFL season I can basically ever remember.
Yeah.
That could happen in League One and League Two, and suddenly things look a bit different. Even in League One, it feels like there are just a smattering of teams who could possibly win the league. League Two is obviously very open. I mean, it is amazing. And every weekend, it feels like we've got huge stories. It feels like we have, opinions that are formed and then torn up immediately afterwards because things change so quickly. It is great, and I'm loving it.
I honestly I reckon at this stage of the season, I would generally have a pretty strong idea in my head of who I think will win each division. And in League One and League Two right now, if you put a gun to my head and said, pick the winner of League One, pick the winner of League Two, I'd say, George, put me out of my misery. Put a bullet in my head, I'd choose sweet, sweet misery over choosing who will win League One and League Two.
Can you choose, please?
So, who wins League One right now? I still say Bolton.
Yeah, so would I.
You'd say Bolton, okay. But I say it with a grimace, as the YouTube viewers
I say
have
it
seen.
with a smile. Why do you hate Bolton so much?
No, because I say it with a grimace because I'm not confident. I'm not confident because of the league, because of the goodness of these leagues. And League Two, I think we'll probably have to do this one on 3, which would be a fun outcome. Who wins League Two? On 3. 3, 2, 1.
Barnet.
wanted to see who you said. Shoot me in the head. I don't want to say.
But I mean, they probably don't as well. So.
I'll say MK Dons because I reckon in January they're going to buy Brandon Thomas Asante, Anis Mehmeti, and Femi Aziz, and all the other best players in the EFL. Right. The Sky Bet Championship weekend. Wow. 4-3-2 scorelines. Like, it's getting a bit ridiculous, this, isn't it? But we start with a team that won 3 games in the last week. It's not Coventry City, although they did do that and, in fact, have won 5 games in a row. It's Sheffield United. The main characters of August and probably September as well for their horrific start to the season. They're on their way back up the league and they beat Leicester 3-2. It was 15th against 22nd, Leicester against Sheffield United, 3-4 months into the season. Can you believe it? We wouldn't have pre-season. And Sheffield United would 2-0 up after 4 minutes here. It was some messy Leicester defending for the first goal. Nice aggression from Sheffield United, front foot, pressing high. Good skill from Sariki in the build-up. The ball fell to Cannon and he fired home. 2 goals in 2 games for a guy who, or 2 goals in 3 games, I guess, for a guy who really needed goals. Callum O'Hare's shot from the edge of the box hit Riedewald's shins and went into the corner for 2-0. And then, also in the first half, a corner headed away onto the foot of Sidney Peck. Absolute beauty, a rocket on the volley into the far corner. So Sheffield United scored basically all of their first shots and they're 3-0 up. And football's an easy game all of a sudden. But it wasn't in the second half. Fatawu picked out Mavadidi at the back post to make it 3-1. Wilder made a change, which Substack Sam, whose Sheffield United blog and pod, The Pinch, is very much nominated for a FSA award, as it is an excellent Sheffield United media outlet. He reckons that Wilder, in making what seemed like a defensive sub by taking a striker off for an extra midfielder going 4-5-1, actually had the wrong impression, the wrong effect. It invited more pressure from Leicester. They weren't able to put any pressure on the ball in build-up, and the pressure came, and it led to another goal. Jordan James with a long-range swerver, which looks absolutely incredible the first time you see it, and increasingly worse every time you watch a replay, because the ball swerves a lot, and that's impressive, but it swerves right into the middle of Mike Cooper's goal. And look, I don't like bashing goalkeepers. I think there's an argument he was unsighted to a certain extent, but it doesn't look great. I still think he should save it or at least do more to get closer to it. His goalkeeping has been poor this season, and a big story, really, because he was second best keeper in the league last season and arguably one of the worst in terms of shot stopping this time out. Blades saw it out for a 3-2 win, and there's lots to be excited about. We thought Wilder would get his grip on things eventually, and then to start with, it wasn't that clear if he would, but 3 wins in a row, very, very impressive. They've scored 3 goals in 3 straight games for the first time in, almost 7 years. And they picked up more points in their last 4 league games than they had in their first 14. So it's been a really good few weeks for them. In terms of the who? Riedewald, worth a mention. It was a classic. Wilder comes into a club and immediately buys someone on a free. And probably quite decent wages, given he's been a Prem player for the last 5 years or so. And I worried that maybe Riedewald was going to be stealing a wage. But it doesn't look like it. He's been playing really well. Him and Peck doing very well in midfield. Gus Harmer's come back from injury. That's going to be big. I'm interested to see if Wilder plays him off the left of the attack again. And if so, where does Callum O'Hare go? Because he's been playing pretty well in that sort of position. Wilder's got loads of striker options at the moment, having added Bamford to Ings, to Cannon, to Tyrese Campbell. That's the sort of thing that helps him sleep easy at night, isn't it?
Do you reckon when Bamford comes into the club, Ings is like, what? I'm already here, not really playing. Like, I'm your veteran, and I've played for England. Like, I have more than Bamford. I have
2 England strikers.
Yeah,
for Sheffield United. That's
2
cool.
former England strikers.
Blimey.
And 2 future ones.
And maybe Dominic Calvert-Lewin will come back at some point.
Yeah.
Probably not. But I want to point out that the right side at the moment is Sariki at right back and Andre Brooks right wing. And that's good fun because Brooks is a Sheffield lad through the academy and now a really impressive performer on the right side of the attack and offers a lot, not just in attack, but also I think Wilder loves his defensive ability as well. He makes a lot of tackles for a winger. And Femi Sariki, who joined Sheffield United age 16 from Bury, so you decide whether you call that an academy player or not. But he's now nailed down that right back position and he's a great fun player to watch when he's in full flow as well. So great weekend for Sheffield United, great week or so for Sheffield United. And starting this weekend, we've got another triple header of Championship games where Blades have Stoke, then Norwich, then West Brom. We'll have a pretty good idea of their level and their league position after that. George, Leicester though. I want to talk about how desperate Leicester are and why they are, right? So they've lost 5 of their last 7 in the league. And I was trying to think, as a team, what do I like about Leicester? Because I'm an optimist. I can almost always find positives in a football team or something that I like. And there's not much, really. Jordan James has shown some nice moments. Fatawu obviously has some insane moments. But probably at this point in the season, I'm left thinking that Fatawu could and should do a bit more.
Yeah.
You hold him to high standards because he's so good. But I think Fatawu needs to carry the ball further sometimes. I think he cuts inside and takes the shot or swings in across almost too early and doesn't get as much output as maybe he or the team could get if he was one of those guys who goes, actually, I am that good. I can drive further inside the box, get into better locations for a cross or a cutback, bring more defenders to me. But I think he goes too early. Mavididi, these are good players, let's be honest, but the team's too reliant on them. I don't think the team has great character and personality. Defensively, it's shambolic. Like, for a team coming down from the Premier League to have a bottom 8 defence in terms of XG against, it's a failure of squad building, sure. It's a failure of, I'm afraid from Cifuentes, it's either a tactical or a motivational failure, or both. I have some sympathy on the motivational front because I think he's swimming against the tide here. I think it's a club with such a bad culture, seemingly, that I'm not sure one guy can just come in and change things overnight. Most of all, I think it's a failure of those that run the club. Like, I haven't seen in the last 5 years of English football many big clubs, Premier League, established clubs-ish, completely muck things up quite like they have at Leicester. From on-pitch stuff, which is clear to see, but off-pitch stuff as well plays a huge role. Potential points deductions, general behaviour, lack of communication to fans. It's been really poor governance of a football club.
On that point, Leicester are currently 16th. What you've just spoken about there, for anyone who, and we spoke about this early in the season, and I was still quite positive about Leicester after a decent start, mainly because I thought they were just so good against Birmingham in that win live on Sky early in the season. The underlying numbers have been bad all season, right? Mm-hmm. So there were some results where they won games. Charlton away is the one that really sticks in memory, where they were really poor, came away with 3 points. They're now 16th through 18 games on 24 points, yet to get the points deduction that's surely coming. So say it's 6, which would be, like, I think, the best Leicester fans can hope for.
That was the latest. I've seen so many journalists that I respect sort of hint at what it might be, and that's the latest suggestion.
But say it's 6, that will knock them down to 18 points. And, as has been reported as well, that isn't necessarily the only points deduction they get this season, depending on how things go. Like, are we looking at another possible... it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Leicester could be looking at a relegation scrap this season.
Completely. A team with bad numbers and, to my eyes anyway, a pretty bad personality is a team massively at risk of a slide that doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And I don't get the feeling that, with the people running the club running it as they are, you don't have that much faith in them sort of getting a grip on things. And it's one of those where changing a manager, I don't necessarily feel as being like the obvious thing to do. It's a mess. Sheffield United made the most of it. 3-2 win. Coventry, 5 wins in a row, beating Charlton from behind by 3-1. In doing so, they hit 50 goals this season in 18 games. The quickest a second-tier side has done that since Sheffield Wednesday, 58-59. This is getting silly now.
A goal difference of plus 32. And that's why it doesn't really matter what the opposition do. Like, going behind is kind of irrelevant with Coventry because you can be so confident they're going to create so many chances. And when they get them, be incredibly efficient as well. And it's been a story of their season so far that players have kind of had them. We've spoken about it before. Players have had their moments within seasons, in small patches. So we had Haji Wright had one, Brandon Thomas Asante had one, Victor Torp had one. Welcome to the era of Ellis Sims, who's basically been sitting on the sidelines for most of the season, and then comes back into the team, kind of in and out initially, and then scores 4 goals in a week. 2 in midweek, and then 2 here in the win over Charlton. Charlton took the lead through Harvey Libbs, and then there was a really chaotic moment within this game where, from a corner at 1-0, Charlton had a header cleared off the line by Bobby Thomas, and then the ball was gathered about 10 seconds later by Carl Rushworth, who immediately launched it forward straight into the path of Van Oeck, who was then just pulled to the ground in the box by Amari Bell. And the referee, I think some would say he might have bottled it, because it was obviously one of those where had he given...
Such a good way of not saying something directly that you don't really want to say.
I don't want to say
Some people might say.
It's a tough job. But there was clearly no attempt to play the ball whatsoever. And it was one of those where if he gave the penalty, he was going to have to send them off. And I think he was like, well, can I be sure? And he didn't give it. And it would have been, Lampard was obviously furious on the touchline. It would have been a huge moment in the game had what happened next not happened, because not long after that, Coventry scored 2 goals. The first, a really good finish from Josh Eccles, who's been playing a little bit further forward, profiting from being that player who plays in that position, who scores loads of goals whenever whoever plays there plays. This was Mason Clark down the left-hand side, who squared it to Eccles, who passed a beautiful finish into the bottom right-hand corner. And then shortly after that, Sims nodded home for the near post to make it 2-1. From then on in the second half, it was basically always going to come that Coventry would get another goal, and it came kind of a couple of ricochets that fell into Sims's path after a good save from Kaminsky, just to bundle it home and win the game 3-1. So, from Charlton's perspective, they'll feel like they caused Coventry some trouble on the break, and they absolutely did. They'll be frustrated that they weren't able to take a 2-goal lead, having had the chances to do so. But they were well beaten on the day by just such a good side, and you're kind of running out of things to say about Coventry, and it's only the 1st of December. Charlton, I think you've got to be a bit worried now. They're another team. We're looking at the table at the moment, having had such a lofty league position early on in the season, and having felt presumably so buoyant after that 3-0 win over Ipswich. Since then, they've only won 1 game. That was a 1-0 home win against West Brom, but 4 defeats in a row now, and they are slipping down to 17th, and not very far clear of those behind. So certainly for Charlton, I think, it's similar to what happened with Oxford last season, really, where you start the season so strongly and like, oh my God, we're not going to get relegated at all. And then you lose a few games and you realise very quickly that things can change. And I think Charlton have to probably, and I know they have done by seeing some of the talk on social media, I think Charlton are very much in a bit of a scrap now to ensure they're not sucked into it.
Yeah, Charlton fans pointing out that Amari Bell's absence seems to have coincided with them conceding tons and tons and tons of goals. Then he came in here, played the first half hour, they 1-0 up, and then he got injured, and then they conceded 3 goals.
Should have been sent off.
So, a few absences, I think, have kind of stopped some of that defensive solidity and momentum. Now, we have a new team in second place. That's because the previous incumbents, Stoke City, lost at home to Hull. They had an incredible moment in the first half where, what a weekend for corners being headed away and sent back with interest. Sorba Thomas, I'm interested in you, son. What a season he's having on the volley, on the full. I mean, if there's been a more powerful shot scored this season in the Championship, I'd be surprised. And it's funny, a week where in midweek, Sorba Thomas scores 2 crosses. No other way of putting it, making it 3 crosses that have gone in for the season. But also, as well as scoring crosses, he's scoring legitimate goals as well, and that's why he's one of the top attacking players in the league. In a league where, per NTT20.com's weekend notes, 10 players have already made 10 goal contributions. There he is with 5 goals, 7 assists, level with Mehmeti on 12, just behind Brandon Thomas Asante. And look, Stoke clearly the better side in the first half. Went in half-time, 1-0 up. Should have been more. What's going to happen in the second half? Mr. Jakirovic makes a double sub. Joseph and Balumi for JB and Ndala, and boy did it work. 1-1 when a shot from the edge of the box after a set piece hit Balumi, possibly on his arm, and looped up to Ajayi to head home. Bit of a chaotic goal, but a goal nonetheless. And towards the end, when Hull they were finishing pretty strongly. It was quite a chaotic end to the game. I was enjoying watching this one as a neutral lunchtime kickoff. But a big tackle from Big Matt Crooks in midfield. He passed it to Balumi, who slipped in Joe Gelhardt. Now, Chamado dived in to try and intercept the pass. He kind of got there and it went almost under his leg. Gelhardt, touch, fires it into the corner. Of course he does, because he is a hell of a ball striker, a hell of a finisher. He has 7 goals in his last 9 games. Gelhardt, he has scored in all 5 of Hull's last 5 wins. He has been massive, and he wins them this game. One of the star players of the Championship so far this season. So Sickner for Stoke. For Hull, it looked like they were going to go 3 defeats in a row here. It looked like the good vibes were burning off, but they continue here. Another reason why they are the team to watch as a neutral, basically, because you never really know what's going to happen. You just know that both teams will probably score, and it'll probably be either 2-1 or 3-2, and that's a good team to watch. And in second place are Kim Hellberg's Middlesbrough. His first game in charge, a 2-1 win against Derby County. He did it with Matt Targett playing centre-back. He did it with the ghost of Alex Bangura playing at left-back, his first minutes of the season. And he did so with Borough making an absolutely horrendous start to the game. A header forward, hooked on, and there was Adjumang streaking in behind. I've been enjoying watching Adjumang. It's only his 3rd goal in, I think, 15 games or so. But I've seen loads of exciting bits that I think is like when he settles, when he adapts, when he gets a bit older and a bit more experienced, the sorts of stuff that come together and build a really terrifying attacking package, basically. He's good in the air. He drifts wide. He's got mobility. He's not like a Carlton Morris who you have to hit him. And if you don't hit him, he's not getting anywhere near it. Adjumang, really mobile. He's got penalty box presence. We've seen him scoring headed goals. This was running in behind, showing pace and strength to shrug off a defender and finish really nicely and confidently at the near post as well. So really enjoyable moment. And they almost went ahead again, or rather doubled their lead from set pieces. But Borough did start to turn the screw. Again, it looks like a double sub made a big difference here. Alan Brown and Soncha Hansen came off for McGree and Strelec. McGree went into midfield, and the pressure was massive from that point. Both goals from set pieces. Target with a thumping header. Never thought I'd say that before. The centre-back, Matt Target, scoring a thumping header.
Matt Target, maybe.
Matt Target, he's been watching the big man. And then the winning goal was a short corner to Whittaker, who sort of hit a cross-cum shot that just bent and skimmed into the far corner, which made it 3-3 for Whittaker, 5-9 for him. He's found his shooting boots, and unsurprisingly, that's really, really, really helped a Borough attack that doesn't always look that fluid or potent. And Borough win. Good fun in the rain. Good start to life for Kim Hellberg. Needs to make sure they don't start the next game quite as poorly, or they could have been punished more seriously. I mean, we've already talked about some great games, George. Now we'll just get into some absolute 3-2 carnage.
Yeah.
Middlesbrough at 3, Southampton 2, led to David, Millwall fan on NTT20 squad, writing, "Only football can make you feel like this."
Oh, that is lovely. Yeah, really nice. 0-0 after 55 minutes, this one. First half, where Millwall were probably a better team. Southampton started okay, but Millwall applied some pressure. Southampton very much missing the penetrative runs of Leo Cienza, who was out for this one, but Jay Robinson came in, and that was actually very sharp and maybe had Southampton's best chance of the first half, set off down the left-hand side by Azaz, and shot well saved by Crocombe. But yeah, the second half was very different. The goal, when it came, the opening goal was against a run of play, one of those penalties given where like no one's really appealing. But you see the replay, and fair enough, Jake Cooper's grappling, as he will grapple, and the penalty's given, which Armstrong tucks away. And then Southampton had, a bit of sustained pressure after that before game state kind of turned it. And as the game went on, Southampton kind of dropped back in order to defend their lead, and Millwall could ratchet up the pressure. And when the goal came from Femi Aziz with a really nice finish in the bottom right-hand corner, it had kind of been coming. And then the best goal of the game undoubtedly came from Caleb Taylor, who'd already scored earlier in the game but disallowed. It was one of those silly ones where, like, watching it, you just knew that it wasn't a foul, where he went for the ball with Bazunu, got there first, but then because Bazunu was there and he's a goalkeeper and there was like some kind of a contact foul or a contact challenge, the keeper disallowed it. Sorry, the referee disallowed it. The keeper doesn't have that kind of power. But Caleb Taylor with an incredible goal to make it 2-1. Just getting the ball. I love it when centre-backs do this. I remember, it reminds me of once when you picked Semi Ajayi to score in the betting show for his set-piece prowess, and he scored a 35-yard screamer. This was similar. Caleb Taylor getting on the ball and just getting it out of his feet and just smashing it top right.
Such a good strike. It was kind of like Company's big one for City back in the day. That away swerve into the top corner.
And what was great is that it was clear that he initially wanted to play it cool, and he was going to walk off, and then he suddenly just thought, like, what?
He went from Cantona to Ketsbayer really quickly.
Fast, and then he absolutely lost it, which was good to see. Before Finn Azaz managed to sneak one in from a tight angle to make it 2-2, but not as tight as the angle that Tristan Kramer popping up at the back post, 90+7 after some good work from Macaulay Langstaff down the left-hand side. The cross he led off, cross came in. I don't know how it's gone in. Like, fair play to Kramer. Like, Kramer on the stretch from a tight angle, all he had to try and do was just get it on target, and that'd have been a good effort. But Manning is there, Bazunu is there. So I think Stevens is on the goal line, and between them somehow, like, going really slowly, it evades all of them, and unbelievable scenes, like a pitch invasion from the Millwall bench, a remarkable 35 minutes of football that culminated in, or actually kind of 45 minutes of football given the amount of injury time, that culminated in Millwall getting back-to-back wins after their difficult run of form where they were winless in 4. They followed that up with 2 wins in a week and kind of get back up to third place. For Southampton, it's a really frustrating one for them. I don't think they can have too many arguments with the scoreline. They would have felt like the Azaz goal should have given them a really handy point. Millwall are a good team and sit in third place with a goal difference of -3.
Alex Neil sprinting down the touchline to celebrate. I think it was Taylor's goal, not the late winner. He was so taken by his 9-foot centre-back pinging one into the top corner that Alex Neil did something quite un-Alex Neil. I would have him down as one of the least likely managers to run to the corner and celebrate with his players. Indeed, the picture that I saw on social media, someone replied to it saying, "Baldy keeps breaking character. We're going up."
Amazing.
So that's where the Millwall fans are at the moment. Another 3-2 win. Came at Hillsborough, Sheffield Wednesday 2, Preston North End 3. I mean, for a team that's wondering where a win will come from in Sheffield Wednesday, they will not have many better chances than this. They went 1-0 up through McNeil. They went 2-1 up through McNeil, and 2 great takes as well. Encouraging signs. A great finish with his right foot, confident finish as well, and then a good header as well. Now, McNeil had missed a big chance at 0-0 in midweek against Millwall, hit the bar. I mean, he went very close. It wasn't a shocker by any means, but it was a big moment. They end up losing that game. It felt like a big moment. He takes his chances here to start with. In between that, Whiteman had scored for Preston North End from the edge of the box from a corner. I think I'm right in saying that Ben Whiteman's quite a big Sheffield United fan, so that one would have been pretty sweet. He was certainly in the Blades Academy. Cadamartri went 1-1 and couldn't finish. Still 2-1 Sheffield Wednesday. 2-2 after another set piece. Wednesday basically concede 1 per game, so they start 1-0 down essentially just from set piece situations. It's 2-2 after that. Then a fire with a handball at the back post for Preston. He'd already been booked, and for me, if there's a cross to the back post that's going to be planted in, or at least have, it's going to the attacker, and you deflect it away with your arm, even if it's not, you didn't punch it away, but it was a handball, I think that's a yellow card personally. Should have been sent off, wasn't. McNeil steps up to put them 3-2 up and secure his hat-trick, saved. And then Frockier zings one in from the edge for Preston. So, I'm looking at it, if I'm honest, from a Sheffield Wednesday lens, and I just think, well, what do you got to do to win a game? Because I can't quite believe they haven't. But from a North End point of view, they don't care. This North End side have a really high floor. They've only lost 1 of their last 7 games. They are very, very difficult to put away and beat. And the ceiling has certainly been raised this season, as we've touched on a number of times, particularly with some of the loanee talent and a bit less responsibility on the shoulders of guys who were struggling a bit with that last year. Guys like Frockier now doesn't have to be the guy that creates everything from open play. He can just be a part of the attacking part of the squad and contribute bits and bobs like he did here with the winner. So 3-2 win for PNE. They are a playoff team right now, and that's pretty damn cool. And finally, George, narrative galore at West Brom 3, Swansea City 2. Blimey, we could do a whole hour on this one.
We could do, it feels like every single one of these games would maybe be top billing in a normal week.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they haven't even got onto the best.
We haven't got to Oxford yet, and I'm very aware of that.
Yeah. Yellows fans, I did not come up with the running order here. This was mad. West Brom 2-0 down at half time. 1-0 down after, 11 seconds?
Yeah.
After Zan Vipotnik ran on to a nice nudge from Franco and pulled off a lovely little lob. And then Ethan Galbraith followed that up with a strike that I think Josh Griffiths in goal would like probably to try and save again, albeit very well struck. It was one of those that probably should have been saved. Now, it's interesting this because I have to keep reminding myself that, this is, as a fan, this is football, right? And you are going to be making decisions based on scorelines. But the reaction at halftime from Baggies fans, despite the fact that, Swansea basically scored, I think, two of their 3 shots in the half, was that this was the end and this was unsalvageable. And this was the worst performance that we had seen from West Brom all season in what's been a pretty poor season. And I kind of get that. Obviously, I think there were elements of the performance when 2-0 down, where game state plays a part, where they looked okay. Ryan Mason decided to switch flanks for Mikey Johnston, which didn't go down particularly well. I don't know why he keeps fiddling around with Johnston when his performances are generally pretty good where he's been playing all season. But at half time, Mason, understandably being 2-0 down and probably thinking, if I don't sort this out, I'm going to get sacked, decided to ring the changes and...
What was it? Quad sub?
Quad sub. very brave. One of them, we know that he's not averse to making brave substitutions, but Isaac Price coming off was probably one where, if you're regardless of how he played, if you're a Baggies fan, you're probably thinking, do we want to take off one of our best players, if not our best player this season? But Price came off. It was Phillips who came off, Gilchrist and Illing Jr., and were replaced by Campbell, Bielik, Grant, and Madger. So therefore, you had on the pitch at the same time Hegerber, Grant, and Madger for the second half. And it worked.
And Mikey. Don't forget Mikey.
But I think the crucial... Yeah, and Mikey. But the crucial thing is that Hegerber didn't come off. And he was the one who scored the 2 goals after half-time. Both of them decent finishes that got West Brom back in the game. And then just one of the best championship stories, I think, of the season from an individual perspective, where last Monday, we sat here talking about, not for the first time in his career, the idiocy of Jason Malumbi getting a second yellow card for one of the most avoidable fouls, pulling a shirt when they were in such a good position within the game against Coventry. Served a suspension in midweek, comes back into the team here, still on the pitch with 5 minutes to go, and the ball comes in from the left. It's a poor cross, I think, from Grant. Madger does really well, in fairness to him. 5 minutes to go, rather than kind of try and spin on the shot, Madger back to goal, controls it, and lays it back to Malumbi, who it's not the easiest finish because it's quite an awkward angle of the ball coming to him, but he manages to kind of scoop it into the bottom left-hand corner to make it 3-2 to West Brom. And also give credit to West Brom here, where Swansea didn't have a single shot in the second half.
Yeah.
And rather than celebrating in front of the fans or anything else, he makes a very clear point to run over to the bench. And all the coaches who don't necessarily come to him, he very says to them, come here, we need to do this together. And he waves the coaches over to him for a kind of scrum in the dugout. And he said in his post-match interview as well that he felt for all the staff, because of the way that they had conducted themselves, and that he felt like they were, effectively it was unfair for so much of the blame to be falling on them, given the way that they were doing their job. So credit to him for what must have been an incredibly emotional moment for him, having to deal with the abuse that he got off the back of that red card last weekend, to score the winning goal here and to effectively use it as a means to kind of unite the club and unite the players and try and send a message to the fan base to kind of join them in that. It was, great scenes. One of the many, many great winning scenes of the weekend. Obviously for Swansea, this is a nightmare. To have been beaten on Tuesday night at home to Derby in Vitor Matos' first game, where I can't really understand why he was in charge of that. It seems pretty obvious to me that it should have been one of those, especially with Britton and Allen coming back to the club, where he should have kind of been overseeing it. So I'm going to say this was effectively his first proper game in charge, where he had time to work with the team. Mm-hmm. Scoring after a minute is always a weird one, because game state is so important that game plans kind of go out the window after the first goal goes in to an extent, being 2-0 up after 10 minutes again, but to not have a single shot in the second half, to not be able to work out a way to continue to be basically a good side for that second half, having been 2-0 up, and to let West Brom back in the way that they did. It's a nightmare start for him. And with Oxford coming to town on Saturday, that is just a huge game. It's a huge game for Swansea, because Oxford overtook them over the weekend. They're now right on the precipice of the bottom 3, and right now look to me to be one of the worst 3 teams in the league. Mm-hmm. And Matos is going to obviously have some time from the fan base to turn it around, but not loads of time. And if they start with 3 defeats, and if one of those defeats is a home loss to Oxford on Saturday, and the manner of the defeat here, things are going to get incredibly awkward for the new owners, because this is a side and a fan base and a team and a club that thought they were going to be pushing to return to the Premier League this season, but they're miles off it now.
Yeah, looks like as he did at Marittimo, he's going for a sort of 4-3-3 with a sitter and then 2 number 8s. I've been interested to see how he will format that midfield, basically, because we understand that he's already referenced the Swansea way. He knows what that is. He wants a team that plays through the thirds, and I think they've got a really interesting group of midfielders in terms of trying to work out how to actually balance them out. In the first game he played Fulton deep. In the second game he played Stamenic deep. In terms of their out of possession profiles, that makes sense. In terms of their in possession profiles, if you've got that single pivot, then they have to be exceptional, really, at this level, at progressing the ball, at dealing with the ball under pressure, at knowing when to pass forward and when to recycle. And I would have my questions about both of those on that front. And then I would say the most obvious decision he's made so far is for Ethan Galbraith to be the most attacking of the midfielders. And he scored in both games, against Derby and against West Brom. Galbraith is someone that we think will basically play pretty well wherever you put him. So again, from an individual point of view, makes sense. From a team point of view, is Galbraith adding more value to the team as an attacking 8 or as the single pivot, as the guy who everything goes through? He's basically probably their best option in all of those roles. So that's something that Matos has to work out. And then, like many previous Swansea managers, certainly the last two, he needs to work out how to get more from his wide forwards, and find a system that creates more chances for the Viper, because he's very clearly an exceptional finisher. He just doesn't get many good chances, and he's not the sort of player that creates them for himself. So West Brom 3, Swansea 2, one of many excellent games this weekend, which started on Friday night at the Kassam.
Finally.
And it was Oxford United.
Yes, it was.
Oxford United FC.
By far the greatest team the world has ever seen. Thank you very much.
They beat Ipswich Town.
We did.
Former UEFA Cup winners. No less.
UEFA Cup versus Milk Cup.
Parachute payment havers.
I know what I prefer between milk and UEFA.
Oh, so do I. Oxford United, the Sky Bet surprise winners in the EFL for the first time this season. 9-2 winners at home to Ipswich on Friday night. What a bit of fun, George Elek.
What a way to cap off an incredible week for Oxford. A win on Friday night and then Sky Bet surprise winners. So,
huge.
Stick that on the CV, Gary. This was massive, especially because I've never known a 95th minute away equaliser be met with such little positivity because the performance was so flat.
I was asleep on the train within about 20 minutes.
And then the team sheet, the team news came out an hour or so before kickoff here, and Mark Harris starting alone meant that there was a massive kind of roar of frustration throughout Oxfordshire when it came out. So, but the win and the manner of it and the performance is just so pivotal for Oxford. Now, there's no denying that up until Mark Harris scored the opening goal, Ipswich were well on top, as you'd probably expect them to be. Had a couple of decent chances, nothing overly clear-cut. Agueli with a header that hit the outside of the post that you'd hope that Cumming may have been able to save. But when the goal came, it was down to, for the most part, poor playing up from the back from Ipswich, where Leif Davis played it into Matasiwa. His pass was short into Mark Harris's path. I thought Harris did okay with the first shot, saved by Walton. And it came back to him, his first goal in 33 games.
Wow. With
a left-footed shot, with the rebound, which he did pretty well to kind of plant over Walton and pass the onrushing O'Shea to make it 1-0 to Oxford. After that, there was a really big moment where George Hurst flicked a ball goalwards. The reverse angle shows it was basically heading into the goal, and then a bit of leg spin just took it away from the post. And Oxford went in at half-time 1-0 up. In the second half, the equaliser came from the foot of Leif Davis with just a sumptuous volley. It was a corner played straight to him. Hurst did very well to block Mark Harris and take him out of the pathway of Davis. And he controlled it brilliantly to fire it into the back of the net. And it felt like then for me, I was like, okay, well, it's frustrating that we've squandered the lead. We've got to make sure we don't lose this now.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure that we get in with a point. Jamie Cumming made one huge save from Hurst at the near post. Before, Lancashire had a chance that was saved by Walton. And it was kind of the case of the game throughout that even though Ipswich dominated the possession and dominated territory and pressure, every time Oxford came forward, we seemed to find a way to get a decent shot off. And it was actually Walton who was by far the busier of the two keepers for the most part of the night. And then the goal came. Now, my kind of looking at this, trying to look at it from an unbiased perspective, if I was an Ipswich fan, I'd have been incredibly frustrated throughout the game about how often they bypass midfield. And that, I think, is a product of the players that they've got, where for the most part, it used to be Luongo and Morsey sitting in front of the defence, and everything would kind of go through without them being overly creative.
Yeah.
They were able to pass into them, and then they would be the ones who would get into the feet of the creative players. Whereas now it's Matasiwa and Taylor. And that means we're seeing Kipre and O'Shea bypass them so often and go long, which is just a bad tactic in my view. Or Taylor playing Hollywood balls, where I just don't think he's good enough to do it. And this was a case where he picked up the ball on the left-hand side. No attempt to play through the thirds at all, just launched it long. And Curry won the header into De Smacker. Good touch out of his feet, and then just a brilliant pass into Shemi Plaheta.
Lip smacker from De Smacker.
Yeah, and Gary Rowett has called Shemi Plaheta a Premier League athlete in the past because he is so rapid. This was a Premier League touch where the first touch to get the ball not only out of his feet in control, but also it's kind of into the diagonal to allow him to cross and beat Taylor for pace. And then such a good finish, for a player that isn't necessarily the most composed for the most of the time, who does things so quickly that, he basically looked at it. He looked at Walton and he snapped his body and played it in the near post and rolled it past him to make it 2-1. An unbelievably good finish. A brilliant kind of fast transition counter-attacking goal to put Oxford 2-1 up. There was some pressure from Ipswich late in the game. One really good save from Cumming from Azon, who should have done better with a ball at the near post, kind of fired it straight at the keeper, but Cumming did well to save it. And a couple of follow-up efforts from Nunez and Clark. But Oxford saw it out. Like a huge win. And this comes at the end of a period where a lot of Oxford fans had given up on Gary Rowett, had given up on Mark Harris, had given up on Chemi Plaheta, had given up on Oxford.
Not you,
basically.
though, son. Not you.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying at all. Because
what a legend.
I was frustrated as well by... I am frustrated a lot by some of our performances. But my point continually is, like, we are a team that are going to be in a relegation scrap this season. Like, if you believe otherwise, fair play, but I don't see why you would think otherwise. Like, you cannot expect for us to finish 12th, 13th, 14th. If we do that, it is an unbelievable job well done from Rowett and the team. So if we're going to be a team that struggles, we're going to play badly. We're going to have performances where we really struggle. But crucially, under Rowett, we're never well beaten. Like, he spoke about it on his post-match on Sky Sports, where he said, like, apart from the Stoke game, we're in every game. And that in itself is a means of picking up points. And this was one where I think Oxford's home performances this season in certain games, the Leicester game, the Coventry game, has been better than the results that they've got. And this time around, it fell their way, and they were able to take the chance when they came, and Ipswich weren't able to take theirs when it came, and that has been the difference. So a brilliant performance, a much better performance than the one against Norwich in midweek. And 5 points in a week, 3 unbeaten. Going to Swansea on Saturday, the club feels totally different to how it felt pre-game on Friday. For Ipswich, as I say, I worry about them at the moment. They're obviously still one of the better teams in the league, but from the way that they use the ball, it feels like they need a proper technician in the middle of the park, or they need to trust their midfield to basically use the ball better, because right now it feels like there's like a desperation to get the ball into the feet of certain players, Philogene being one of them, Davis being another, but it should be easier. Like, they should be able to do it more simply than they are at the moment. And maybe having Hurst up top as that big man isn't really helping them, because they try and find him too often. But this was all about Oxford and a brilliant performance.
If only you could play teams from East Anglia in every game, because you average 2 PPG against them.
If only we could play just good teams. Like, against good teams, Bristol City, Coventry, Ipswich. Like, it's teams who look to play where Oxford are best. It's teams where, for whatever, when they play a bit like Wrexham, a great example, where we just couldn't get near them because they wouldn't give us any space to do so.
If we widen East Anglia into just Anglia, Cambridge, Colchester, Peterborough.
Where does Anglia end?
That's a question that we don't have time to get into on this podcast. For some, Anglia never ends.
I think Anglia is just England.
Stop it.
Yeah.
No, it's obviously not, is it?
It is.
Because there's only 5 teams that vie for being the pride of Anglia, and guess what? They're all fairly close geographically. So
Anglia is
obviously, I'm sure in some mythical land, Anglia was a word for England, but it's not these days. It isn't, is it?
Okay, cool.
We've got an Anglia, thank you very much, and it's just over there somewhere.
Right.
No one quite knows. If you're not from there, you don't quite know what's going on over there, but they seem to be having a nice time. On that note, we actually went.
Is it Anglican Church just over there?
Yeah,
okay.
It's wherever you want it to be.
Right.
Actually, church, God,
yeah,
whatever you want it to be, wherever you want it to be. It's either physical or metaphysical. I don't even know what that means. We went to East Anglia, actually, the Norfolk end on Tuesday night. Good segue into Norwich 3, Queen's Park Rangers 1, Norwich City's first win at home in the league this season. Philippe Clement's first win as Norwich City manager. Big win for them. 3-1 win. Let's talk through the goals. Lots of set-piece bits and pieces, really. Marcondes firing home. Loose ball, second phase of a set-piece, dropped to him. Finish well. Beat Burrell. Finished for the equaliser. Second phase of a set-piece. Cut back. Burrell taps in, 6 yard out. As he does. What a year he's having. I'm not sure there's much more room on the Burrell train, because it's 6 in 9 in the last 9 championship games. He has last season in League One, he converted 28% of his shots, which was the best shot conversion in League One. This season in the Championship, 29% of his shots are going in, the 5th best in the Championship. An own goal by Mbenge put Norwich 2-1 up. Bit of fortune for them there. Corner just hit him and went in. And the third goal was the big one, right? Because we know firsthand from Tuesday night when we were in the Oxford end there, how allergic Norwich are to 1-goal leads. Even managing to give one up against Oxford where they didn't even seem under that much pressure. And they weren't even playing particularly nervously, but they still conceded in that game. So for Forson to get on the ball and curl one into the far corner, quality goal, put them 3-1 up, and I think that settled things and they saw it out fairly easily. Forson's the classic Norwich fans like saying to me, I promise you Forson's good. And I'm like, I'm not disagreeing with you, but when he can start more than 3 games in a row, which he hasn't done in 18 months as a Norwich player, then we will be able to say definitively they've got a lot of players like that who either through injury or lack of adaptation just haven't shown that consistency. And if Clement can get that out of Forson, maybe a couple of others, they'll be in much better shape. So Tuesday night, I think they went odds on with Sky Bet for relegation. So, more than 50% probability in that sense. And this win makes things look a little rosier, I think it's fair to say. Also, what a city Norwich is, by the way.
Yeah.
We did go from station to restaurant to pub to pub to pub to ground to station.
Yeah.
So, but it looks...
Shout out the XO Kitchen.
Hell of a place.
Fantastic Asian fusion cuisine.
Incredible food.
Then we went to the Weavers.
Then the ribs of beef.
And then we went to the Steam Packet with the intention of going to a couple of other ones, and we had such a good time we didn't leave.
You never leave the Steam Packet once you're inside. You get sealed in. And it does get steamy in there, I must admit. We didn't make it to the Murderers, which means we have to go there. I think we actually highlighted a date to go back to Norwich for an away game, didn't we? Because we enjoyed it so much.
We've got a couple of meetings.
George, Pompey 0, Bristol City 1, Portsmouth sliding into the relegation zone after this one.
Yeah, worries for Pompey. Bristol City took the lead. Brilliant ball from Neto Borges on the left-hand side, which Anis Mehmeti scoring a header. Lovely header as well, into kind of the roof of the net.
Mehmeti in a contract expiry year is a hell of a thing.
He's going to cash in, I reckon, in the summer. So 1-0 to Bristol City there. And then Pompey had quite a few chances in the second half. Knight had 2 headed opportunities that he really should have done better with. Both good chances where you'd hope he'd go close, but both kind of pretty wayward. Colby Bishop had a couple of opportunities as well. Josh Murphy went close. He hasn't scored this season, Murph. Went close with a shot from outside the area that whistled past the post with his right foot. So, for Pompey, it feels like everything's kind of going wrong at the moment. They have players back. You'd have thought that would improve them. Maybe there is an element of improvement from their performances at home in particular, but for the most part, they are struggling, and they're looking at teams who started the season poorly, who are improving, and they need to find a way to improve, because right now they're in a bit of trouble. Credit for Bristol City for a really good away win. They've continued to kind of bounce back after the international break, bounce back from the 2-0 defeat against Wrexham in midweek, and look like still a very, very good team. But as you say, I think probably some concern at Bristol now that Mehmeti isn't going to be that keen to sign a new deal anytime soon, is he? Despite him being their key player.
It kind of strikes me that Portsmouth's sequence of performances in the last 2 months has basically been poor, okay, poor, okay, poor, okay, poor, okay. But the poor games they lose, and the okay games they generally draw or lose, which is not ideal. So lots for lovely John Mousinho to sort out. Wrexham 1, Blackburn 1, the only draw of the weekend. Put Blackburn in a gold kit and stick them on a bus for a few hours to go somewhere around the country, and they turn into Brazil. That's what they were for an hour of this match at Wrexham, who've been so good at home recently. Blackburn were excellent, the better side, no doubt. Alabiosu driving forward and crossing for Gudjonsson to head home. Names that we've been saying a lot in positive terms with Rovers recently. And plenty of other chances not taken. That's the problem. Because on the hour mark, Parky looks at his bench. He goes Doyle on, Dobson on, Windass on, Scar, Sheaf, O'Brien off. So that means Broadhead and Josh Windass playing off of Kiefer Moore. I think it's the first time they've been seen on the pitch together. Previously, Parky had been taking the approach of like the president and the vice president on their respective aircraft. You've got to keep them separate in case something happens. Don't want both of them to go down, both of them to die. Broadhead and Windass had been that, and now they brought them together. And that didn't quite work. So then he brought on Barnett for McLean, makes sense. Then he brought on Sam Smith for a centre midfielder and Matty James, and they just pumped it in and eventually sucked it in. a broad head shot. I reckon Alabiosu might have been making a legendary goal line clearance, but it hit Cleworth on the heel and in. So Wrexham maintain their unbeaten record, 8 in total, 4 wins, 4 draws, and their excellent home record with, let's be honest, a bit of fortune in that one. Birmingham play Watford Monday night, 8 p.m. Be interesting to see who wins that game and starts flirting a little more strongly with the playoff places. But what a league, what a weekend. Thanks for listening to the Championship segment.